And we're live! Welcome to Wargamers Hangout, where we have fun times. I always am Codex Dan, and with us we have...
Miranda, Wargamer girl.
Hey!
I just got a video out today. This is kind of a big deal for me. My next battle report went out, and I'm very happy.
It's always good to complete something and put it up. Especially, I liked what you did at the beginning of the battle report with putting like the scenario up. It was just all very clear and good. I may steal that.
Yeah, I've actually seen a couple other battle reports, and I'm like, that is a very good idea. I'm going to do that.
And Privateer Press isn't a stickler. Like, if you try to do that with Games Workshop, and they'd be like, no! And then they try to kill you. But Privateer Press is pretty genial that way. They like advertising of their company and their rules. Who would have thought, right?
Funny that. Yeah.
Speaking of GW, man, oh man. For those of you following closely my channel, of course, did some reviews of the new Orc Codex or 40k. And 40k freaking sucked me right back in. I got some flash kits in a box. I have some flash kits not in a box. All painted up nicely. Oh, focus. Focus. It might happen. It might. Probably not. I can manually focus, but I'm too lazy. Come on, stupid camera. Alright, I'll just go later.
So those are some orcs. You can see there's green. They obviously have faces.
Yeah, they're great. Okay, fine. I'm going to find this manual focus, and we're going to do it. Talk about something.
How many games you've gotten in? How's it been?
I've yet to play 40k. I have not. I might play this Sunday.
You know what that makes you, sir? A
What?
hobbyist.
A hobbyist?
Like a painter or a sculptor. Not playing.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, he does look really cool. I like his hat.
He's just so, there's so much detail on him. Look at that little squig on the little pole, giving him accuracy and stuff. They're just, they're wonderful models. And they're just so full of character. I mean, well, man, I need to maybe paint them a little better. They're not completely done, but more DACA. So, turn autofocus back on. All right. And then I also may have bought one of these Gorkanut things.
I'm sorry, what is that called?
It's a Gorkanut or a Morkanut. Where's the box? The box is here. One of these things.
Ooh.
Looks pretty good. The only issue is it's like the same cost as a Stampa. But the Stampa, you get... Oh, Fred. Come on, Fred. Get over. See? This is Fred. This is a Stampa. And then, for the same price, basically, you can get this guy. This little tiny guy. Of course, I need to build more of him and paint more of him. But, you know, it's just... I didn't understand it. Oh no! Fred's head off! I'll get it later.
Welcome to our live show where you watch Dan break his models.
It wasn't even glued on. It just fell off. I thought I could balance it. Overconfidence. So.
You've been doing far more assembly than I have. I still have my many boxes of Khador stuff that sits unassembled and unopened.
See, I love assembling. I love assembling, gluing together. Like, I love that creative, like, blah, and it's just wonderful. But the painting is like, okay, get through the painting so you have, you know, something there. It's just hard. But I painted some work models. That's good, and I acquired a lot more. And so, and maybe you're acquiring a lot more. It's funny how many people just stop playing 40k, and you're like, oh, we'll just get it really cheap from you. So, but War Machine is still what I love. It's just I needed to kind of like, I played nothing but War Machine for real. I think you can kind of relate to that. Where if you play nothing but War Machine constantly, then you kind of want to break playing a little something else.
You want to just do something else. Owen actually mentioned it really well, perfectly. In one of the other live streams was about a game of knowledge versus a game of like more strategy, like general strategy versus how well you know the specific rules of a specific game. And so, like, War Machine is a very knowledge-based game to win and to succeed at. So having any other game that is just general strategy, roll dice and have fun, which kind of is what 40K can be a nice, refreshing balance.
Yeah, and I play some X-Wing every once in a while with some other guys. They're all, like, married and stuff, so it's like that's like their night out, and I'm just like, tag along. I'm like, hey, guys.
Their night out. Yeah, no, I agree. X-Wing is probably a good example of that as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm trying to, as cheaply as possible, get some orcs back from Mini Wargaming, buy some more orcs, and hopefully within the next month I'll have some 40K battle reports out.
Ooh.
That is what the public wants, and so I can't say no. And look, I got this shirt. It's such a good shirt. I love it so much. I worked with Birthday Barbecue, and they're like, "What's DACA?" There's a lot of it. I was like, "That's right.
That's right."
That's how it should be. More DACA. But anyways, for the theme of the show today, I thought about talking more, because I have a tournament coming up this Saturday that I'm driving up to Edmonton to, and I thought about talking about different, like, how, at least us as individuals, how we build our tournament lists, and how you guys can chime in too, those of you who are watching, all 9 of you, and just like how we get to the point where it's kind of tournament ready compared to just a list you throw together to experiment or have fun with at the club.
And we're tracking comments, so you can ask whatever questions you want about tournament list building.
So for me, I guess I should have had like something like to show you guys, because for me, like, list building is like kind of have like a certain. Every list in War Machine has to have like 2 things. One thing is dealing with infantry, and the other thing is dealing with big armor. There has to have always an element of both, and that's kind of a general thing I keep in the back of my mind, because a list usually always has both, and if it only has one, then usually it's not very balanced or will lack in some regard, and so you'll be okay.
Rick, what's the format of your tournament this weekend?
It's Steamroller 2 list, 50 points.
2 lists, okay. So you're gonna build one list to deal with, say, high armor or high infantry, or are you doing the Hordes War Machine type of list build? Or?
That's the thing. Is like there's so many different things you can do, and it really depends on. There should be your one main list, and your one main list is what you're comfortable with, what you're really confident will do well. And then your backup list of when your main list can't deal with what they're bringing, you try to bring another list that can answer the questions that the other one can't. And okay, so there's this term, I think Muse on Minis uses this a lot. Maybe, I don't know, I hear people talking about it. But it's a pretty good way to think about it, is that in War Machine, either your list will ask a really hard question, or it will be able to answer really hard questions.
Yeah.
So you have to, which kind of list are you going to bring? So for example, asking a really hard question would be like mercenaries, like a Shay list that's super fast. Is like on turn 2, they're basically in your deployment zone, like all around. And half of them have 4-up tough and no knockdown and all this stuff, and there's all this stuff, and it's just, it asks a really hard question.
Yeah.
Can I kill these pirates? Or are they going to swarm? Or are they going to keep me out of the zones? Like all this stuff, and it's like, if you can, well then you win. But if you can't, then you struggle, and we'll see how kind of the game goes. And
well,
so,
not even that can you kill them. They're not high defense dudes, right? There's just so many of them. So can you do enough?
Right. And so, can your list answer that question? And so, that Shay list is a very aggressive list. It goes up and goes, this is what I'm doing. I do it every time. Deal with it. Well, I think what I like to build is more of a do what you want to do, and let me see if I can solve it kind of thing. It's like, okay, you do that thing, and then I bet I can take care of it. I'm more of like a puzzle kind of guy. I'll always love like the little different like mind twist. I don't even know what they're called. You know what I'm talking about, right? Maybe.
I
Why
rarely do, Dan.
can I think? Yeah, fair enough. Uh, what are those things called? Just like the mind puzzles and different things, like Rubik's cubes and different things like that. I just, yeah, sure. Anyways, I love that kind of stuff. That's like kind of like I'm in my element when it's kind of that kind of stuff. So when I build my list, I kind of want to be able to try to answer everything, no matter how crazy they do stuff.
You want to be able to answer everything with one list?
Well, that's why you have your two lists, right? So you can answer everything with the two lists.
Okay.
But that's how I usually try to build my lists. Instead of bringing something really solid and it goes forward and does something really awesome, and hopefully they can't get around it. And obviously, there's ebb and flow. There's it's not 100% asking or solving whatever. But I think it's a really cool way to think about War Machine that way when you're building your lists. Of okay, what kind of hard questions can I ask with this list? What kind of situations can I put on the board where they're going to have a really hard time dealing with it? And also, if they put me in weird situations, can my list actually handle it? Or do I have to put them in the weird situation first, and hopefully they don't put me on the back foot because I've already been aggressive fast enough? So I think that's really important to think about when thinking about your lists.
Which also comes down to a playstyle. I mean, if you're the type who wants to be asking the questions, asking the hard questions, you're usually playing a really aggressive list, which means you're running assassination or scenario. Whereas one that's going to be answering all those questions is going to be more of an attrition-based game. And then the other factor to account in that is, okay, what are the time turns? Is this a death clock? How fast can I move all these models? So, and again, playstyle, if you like what you're talking about, Dan, where you're figuring it out, where you're figuring out your opponent and dismantling their army versus just shoving it, just headed straight for them.
Right. It's I think as Cygnar is easier to be the answering one, because we got a lot of stuff that like a lot of people like stealth and things like that, and we don't have a problem with that. So it's like stealth is usually, oh, I have lots of stealth, and you're like, it's hard to deal with, but Cygnar is like, well, it's okay, we got it. Or it's like if someone has a really big ranged army kind of thing, it's like we already kind of do. And the only hard question that people ask Cygnar is armor. And so when you're playing Cygnar, it's just like, okay, I know out of their two lists, they're going to bring the one probably with the most armor because Cygnar is so good at just eliminating all the little guys. How are you going to kill? And so when I build my list, sometimes I just I actually ignore all the stuff that Cygnar is good at because I assume that the opponent will bring stuff that is not going to get slaughtered by what we're good at and won't 100% realize that they don't have something to abuse like that normally could be really good, but against Cygnar would be bad. So but I don't bring that Cygnar stuff because it's going to be useless because no one will bring it against me anyways. It's kind of like a meta thing. Sometimes it backfires like that.
This building is super meta, by the way. I mean, you're looking at your player base. What's the favorite faction? What is everybody? How do people play? I mean, that's a very big factor. Actually, Dan, Ishaya, this guy has a comment about Cygnar, actually. He says, yeah, but what happens when you're Cygnar and you play those damned hordes? Anything specific to have against that? Electric equals nothing against hordes, folks. And I think he's probably up against the armor or the question that you're talking about.
Yeah. So, I do shampoo my beard, by the way. Someone asked that. So,
that's true. I wasn't going to repeat that one, but I'm going to
So with hordes, yeah, again, they're just like it depends. Like against like circle, they're really high defense, but if you can get past it, the armor isn't as high usually. So you can do that kind of stuff unless they bring like E-Boulder tier. But again, with hordes with a lot of big beasts, it's like you often lack the hitting power to kill a beast in one shot, which means it can just heal for like 2 and be at full strength and then kill your heavy, and then all of a sudden you're they're trading way better than you are, and so it's like it's rough. It is, and so that's why I've developed different. Okay, so for example, mostly with a friend named Gord, I was talking about Threemo. So Threemo is a really fun Cygnar caster because he's got like, lots of crazy tricks. He's got 7 focus. He already has an attachment with him that comes along. He only got 3 warjack points though. But what happens is whenever he allocates focus, if you're in the command range of his attachment, Caitlin Finch, then you get you get double the focus. So there's no bond or anything, so the max is 3, but still you're either getting 2 focus for only 1, or you're getting 3 focus for only 2. So you're getting lots of extra focus. And then you bring like focus efficient jacks like Stormclads in there, and they're getting a free focus from the Stormblades nearby, and then you give them 1 focus, and then they have 3 focus. So it's just out of your 7, you give 2, and you have fully like loaded jacks that can wreak havoc and kill stuff. So that's really cool. But then he has his electrical part, where on his feat turn, every electrical damage roll that originates from a model in his control area gets boosted damage. And so all of a sudden, POW 10s are POW 10s boosted, and so all of a sudden you can hurt a lot more things that you couldn't before, and especially with all the leaps and everything like that. So you just kind of want to maximize on those leaps. So first of all, I was like, okay, so Nemo, I want 2 Stormstriders, and I was thinking of this tier list, and which you can bring a lot more stuff and cool things with the Stormwall and Thunderhead, but it just turned out to be a little too much. And Thunderhead really didn't fit too well in the list because he used too many points. But I love Stormwall, because with Stormwall you could just ignore their defense completely, and you could place down a Storm Pod, which is immune to lightning, and then you shoot the crap out of the Storm Pod, and it just POW 10s into its closest model. And so if you want to assassinate something, you're like, there's that weird solo you don't like, you put the Storm Pod like right beside it, and even if it's engaged, it's only defense 9, and everything's like Rat 6, so 3 is the hit, which is as low as you can get. So it doesn't matter. And so you just all of a sudden POW 10s until it dies. And all your guys are almost guaranteed hitting the pod, or the Storm Pod. Yeah. So it was really great, and my list really revolved around that for a while. But the problem with the Stormwall is that he is the only heavy hitter in the list in melee. So I had 2 Stormstriders, I had 2 Storm Towers, I had 3 Storm Callers, and just a million and one electrical things in my list. But I run into the problem that once the Stormwall died, if they had something that still had really high armor and my feet had been used up, I couldn't kill it. And if it was the caster, if it was the enemy caster, it was a beefy caster, all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just lose.
Scenario.
But if they're like sitting in the middle of the scenario, and you're like, all of a sudden he just starts killing everything.
Yeah.
And you can't do a whole lot. So then one of my answers was, okay, drop the Stormsmiths and get Iris 3. Because Iris 3 or Iris 1, but that doesn't matter. You can shoot and take off the focus, the extra armor, for armor boosting. And so that will help me kill them. But then the more I talked about it with my buddy Gord, the Storm Wall, he's great and all, and you having that Storm Pod for like precision electroleaps is great. If instead you drop the Storm Wall, which is 19 points, for 2 Storm Clads, because I also, I don't know, I rearranged some things. I also had a Boker in the list to try to keep myself alive. Yeah, so it was solid just because Nemo can die in like 2 seconds. Another reason I didn't do here is because Reinhold, because I can give him two shots and you can do a lot of more POW 10s. But you get 2 Storm Clads. And so what I was saying earlier with the focus manipulation, so very efficiently he can give those Storm Clads a lot of focus and charge. They basically have the same threat range as the Storm Wall, but they can get in easier. And if you really need to kill something, go forward. The Stormclad, it's only 1 less POW, and you have an damage buff. And so, anyways, you can kill something with a Stormclad and then have it killed in return, but you can actually peace trade instead of charging with a Stormwall to kill it, because you need to kill it, and then them killing the Stormwall and you have nothing left. But this time you have a Stormclad left. And again, you lose the effect of the pod precision awesomeness, and covering fire is always amazing. Like Stormwall's just a really, really solid Colossal. But it wasn't. There's too many times where people would ask that tough question, and I couldn't answer it without losing my Stormwall and then losing the game.
Yeah.
And you just like I couldn't even get in the melee with Stormwall unless there was absolutely nothing left. So eventually, I came to the decision that for a tournament play, it would be much better to have the 2 Stormclads, and that way I could bring the Storm Blades, drop the Boker, and I think a few other points. I don't know. I kept the 2 Storm Towers because they're great. But the Stormclads also have the double effectiveness of they have a range 8 POW 14 gun, which you can boost, and his and Nemo's feat, actually I said it was boosted, but it's actually an additional die. And so you could shoot POW 8 or range 8 POW 14 with 4 dice damage, which is nothing to scoff at. With an 11 Electroleap, which is another POW 10 additional die damage on something else. And so the more I thought about it, Stormwall fit so well, but then as I played the list more, it kind of developed, it switched over to the Stormclads instead, and they fit better. So that was neat to have that list evolve like that.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with this.
Make electronic hit harder.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like, yeah, so when you're building your lists, it could be a good list, but it can be, always try to refine it. Always try to think, okay, how could this be a little better? And even if it's like an extreme change or whatever that you don't really think, just think of, okay, what am I having problems dealing with, and how can I change it so I don't have those problems anymore, while still dealing, like, still not, like, getting rid of me being able to take care of what I already am taking care of.
And if you're tweaking lists, don't change more than like one model out at a time. Because there's too many variables after. If you like jimmy around and change out this unit and this unit, then it just plays too differently to know how effective that's going to be. So, in my opinion. Whenever I was refining my old witch list for hardcore, which was a fun tournament for me because most everybody was kind of bringing an all-comers list because it was just a one-list format. I was tweaking just one little model at a time, just making sure that it played the way I wanted it. And I actually kind of like that format the best because it does get less skewy. I know a lot of people, like Owen, who'll play very skewy. Do you, though, Dan? I know you're not super Jones about list building, generally.
Yeah. See, Owen's great. I wish I could have him on here. So Owen is like the kind of guy who going on the same theme, ask the hard questions. He's just like, I'm going to build this crazy list and see if people can deal with it because I think it's super powerful. And he's like, Muh, and he does really well with that. He's a really good player. And
he also understands the value of showing up models or coming with models that people don't expect, like the not popular list.
And it is that's good to a point. When you get to like the high levels of play, you can't like people are just good enough that it won't trick them. But at the same time, if you're not used to it, just like the best players in the world, if they're playing with casters they're not familiar with, they're going to make mistakes. And so when you play against models you're not familiar with, and it's maybe a strength, maybe a weakness of Warhammer Hordes, is that it really throws off your game. It's because they can play so differently, can do so many different things, and crazy shenanigans.
It's true.
Let's see here. What about the Cyclone Jack? He's got some balls. Cyclone is, in my opinion, only good Jack Marshall to gun mages. That way you can either snipe, and so you're really far range with them, but you just, again, they're POW 12s, which is good, much better than POW 10s. I'm pretty sure. Cyclone card. I was gonna say here, he's got his covering fire, which is also great. But if when you need something out of a zone, if you can push it around, you can use Thunderbolt, and because it's not a special attack, things work, and then you can have potentially 6 shots on things, pushing them D3 each time with crit knockdowns, and so it's quite nasty to play against. But again, you want to spend 9 points on a jack that can push stuff around and knock stuff down, and then face a colossal, and you're like, no, I can't push you. And power 12s aren't going to do anything against you, besides think maybe one hit point here or there. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, dang it. And that's why I usually don't bring Cyclone. I've only a couple times, more funless. See, it's harder to fit in just with the Colossal. Since the Colossal release, the Cyclone's been have a hard time fitting in my list, just because if there is a Colossal, then your Cyclone's doing next to nothing if they don't have tiny little juicy targets around the board for you.
Yes. There is an older comment in here from Filter 8. It says, I have $40. What is a good juicy mini to paint from Warhammer Hordes? Be a little more specific.
What do you think is a beautiful model in War Machine or Hordes?
Aurora's a pretty model. I like the Warcasters. Beast 09 is a beautiful model, but he's like $60. Trying to think of a cool Hordes one, because there's some really pretty circle models as well, like Megalith and the Wold Guardians and stuff.
I find any of the new Journeymen or the new like Journeyman Warlocks or Warcasters, all their models, Privateer Press has really stepped up their game, and their new models are fantastic looking. So I'd take a look at those. Maybe find something delicious. What was another model I was looking at? The new Apollonia looks amazing. Looks very.
It's true. It comes down to the aesthetic. Do you like clockwork? Do you like, the Legion, that sinewy, crazy look? Do you like the Thorn look? I mean, the answer is it depends.
Find one for yourself. I got nothing else.
Hey, have you had a chance to use, what is it, the Reliant, the new Vengeance, Cygnar Jack?
No, it's a bad Jack.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and maybe you could use it effectively, but I mean, and it's pretty cheap considering, like, compared to other Jacks, but again, it's still like a Jack.
Cygnar prices, yeah.
So, no, I don't plan on using it anytime soon. It's kind of like the Avenger. The Avenger can be useful and pretty good, but you're stretching and it's harder to use it instead of just being a solid good Jack like the other many others that we have. So,
what would you say are Cygnar's top Jacks then? Like top, I don't know, 5?
Well, there's Old Rowdy. He's like our best Jack probably.
Which one?
Old Rowdy. He's a character. Sorry?
Old Rowdy is incredible.
Yeah, because he's a character ironclad, and so he's Mat 8. He's armor 20 because he's got a buckler. He's got imprint grudge, and so if you don't kill something, you can, bet on, and if something hits him, you're like, like probably kill it or do a lot of damage to it. He still has his crit knockdown. It's just a really, really good Jack, and he can charge and run for free. It's just super good. Only thing he lacks is reach. Other than that, he's like perfect Jack. Let's see, Stormclads. Stormclads are just great. They're Powerful Strength 19 with Mat 7 base. They're 10 points, but pretty good bargain. And a solid infantry unit, Stormblades, which are pretty commonplace. A lot of Cygnar lists give them free focus with an accumulator, so it doesn't matter if they're fleeing or whatever, knocked down. Doesn't matter if the Stormclad activates within 3 inches of one, they get a free focus.
Yeah.
So it's just really the good focus efficiency. You don't have to give out focus so they can run the first couple turns, so you can cast your upkeeps with whatever you cast your. So Stormclad is just like a fallback. Just hits super hard, hits really reliably. Like Mat 7 compared to Mat 6 is fantastic. Like it just really on that like Bell scale or whatever, Bell graph, something. It's just a lot better. It's great. Mat 7 is fantastic. Then there's the defender, which is again range 16, POW 15. You're just taking chunks out of heavies all game long. Fantastic. There's a hunter, which does the same thing as a defender. Again, medium to large base targets. Like statistically, like the amount of armor, it's like they're almost doing the exact same amount of damage, except they have extended control range, so they can be like super far away on the board and not a problem. Like with Jakes, you can bring with Jakes, and you can increase the hunter's defense by 2, so it's already defense 14. So with defense 16, it's probably going to be hiding in the forest because it's got Pathfinder, and it's also got parry, so you can't even engage the hunter. And Jake's only has control area of 8, but with the hunter it's 16, and so she doesn't have to be anywhere near him and get any kind of hurt and stay back. And so it's just hunter is super solid. So I think wait, Stormclad, Old Rowdy, Defender, Hunter, and last but not least, the Stormwall. It's so good. It's got 2 Defender cannons, although -2 range, not too bad. It's got 2 Cyclone guns. So it's basically a Cyclone and 2 Defenders in one.
Exactly. Which is part of why the Cyclone isn't that amazing, I guess, anymore. If it ever was.
And so it's just, it's really good. So I think those are top 5 jacks. I think most people would agree.
So those are good staples to get when you're building up your Cygnar army.
Oh yeah. If you want Stormclad, I don't know. I like 2 Stormclads. Oh no, although we also have there's also Thorn. Okay, in there. Ooh.
How much is it? Like
Thorn
points?
is 8 points. But it's Arc Node. It's mostly shines with Haley. Because with Haley it's an arc node, and when you arc through it can move 3 inches. So with Epic Haley you can teleport it forward 2 inches. You could like teleport arc node itself and then teleport 2 inches, and then it gets to move 3 inches.
Yeah.
And so like a funny thing you can do is if you bond Thorn and because the bond you choose at the beginning of the battle, and so usually you want Stormwall and Thorn, and then if it's a squishy caster, what you can do is you catch people unawares. You put Thorn as your bonded one, and you bring Arlen Strange Waves, and then you give him evasive, and so he's immune to free strikes. And then Thorn, Haley's bond is +2 movement, so it's already speed 6, so you can run for 14 because normally 12, but +2 movement because of the bond. That if you cast, no, you don't want to cast anything on it because so you run 14. Immune to free strikes. So you're just like, whoop, 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 whoop. If you still can't see their caster, you cast telekinesis on itself, and you move another 5 inches. And guaranteed you're going to be able to see their caster, and then you just spell assassinate them.
Yeah.
Or throw a time bomb on something. It's really good. And then Thorn has Disruption Spear, so if you hit something with the spear, you're disrupted. And it has a Cortex Shield too, so you hit something with the shield, you're getting out Cortexes. And so it's a really solid Arc Node Jack. Again, a little expensive 8 points, but if you fit in with a Haley list, you can do a whole lot of damage and a whole lot of trickery. I'm gonna have to extend it from 6 because I don't know which is better. I mean, they're all really solid jacks. Cygnar is really good jacks.
Poker 26,000 is asking if the Centurion is any good.
Yeah, Centurion's very solid. Only problem is that he's really slow.
Like a Khador jack, and you just don't have much speed buffs.
Yeah, screw Speed 4. But so Speed 4 is really slow, but with Polarity Shield you can like really just because a lot of things that have grid armor cracking, like for example, the example of Bastions for Menoth. If they're charging you, they're just like ruining stuff. They just destroy jacks. But you can move up with the Centurion, you're like, Polarity Shield, walk up and hit me, and all of a sudden that's 1 less die of damage on like 4 guys. 4 die less damage on your jack, that's fantastic. And he's like base armor 21 with shield.
I was going to say, isn't it 19 plus 2 shield?
Yeah. So he's really solid. He's up there as well among one of our better jacks. The only problem is he's only mat 6. So again, you have trouble. Sometimes you have trouble hitting things, even though he is POW 18. But if you do want to go for, he has critical sustained hit, and so when you're boosting the hit, again, all you need to do is hit once, and then you can just buy attacks and automatically hit with the the rest of his attack.
Well,
So
you
that,
just crit ones.
right, as long as you crit. And so it's not super reliable, but when it happens, like against a caster, you're like, go up and you're like, boost the hit, you're like, ooh, I crit! And power team, power team, power team. So that's
Yeah,
great.
if that works out perfectly. I think the Centurion falls down in that it's hard to kill, but I don't know how threatening it is. Again, lacking speed buffs. Like Khador jacks, yeah, they're slow, but we've got red line, we've got superiority, we've got balanced charge, we've got...
Right. And Cygnar does have a few movement buffs, mainly with E-Haley, but with E-Haley, like it was like you might want to bring a Centurion bonded, but that was before Stormwall came out. And so Centurion does have a little bit of a problem finding its way into lists. It's not completely obsolete, but I haven't played with a Centurion for a very long time. But whenever I did, I always loved him. He was great. So yeah. But no, Cygnar has a lot of cool jacks, and that's the problem is that when they're releasing these new jacks, if they're also really good, it's like Cygnar's getting all the love. And so they're kind of like mediocre jacks to like fit in and buff up and different things. And so as for our really solid jacks that you don't have to worry about buffing up too much, we kind of have our base, and I don't expect anything soon.
I'm super happy about the Grolar, and I think Khador has some pretty decent jacks, but I saw auto knockdown and I was like, oh yes, my mortar crew will be accurate now.
That's true. When you knock someone down, it's just anything can hit it.
And Khador, I think, is an excellent combined arms army. So if we just have a little rad, but if you make up for that, like freezing grip and knocking something down, yes, excellent.
Both and Menoth too. Menoth has a lot of things that are like we're inaccurate, but you're like, but then you give him the choir buff and you aim and you're really not that inaccurate, and you're hitting really hard.
Yeah, it's just Menoth they buff themselves up to do it, whereas we just sort of have to, or Khador has to knock somebody down or do something to the opponent first.
Debuff them, take out their legs, or their.
Freeze them with your icy glare. I love Sorcerer. Hey, a little off topic for War Machine, but we do have a couple people asking, and this will be for you, Dan. What are good lists for 40k orc lists, I guess? We've got Kevin Gallion and the Apathetic Fish asking about where to good lists in general, and then where to start with orcs in 40k.
Orcs, again, I haven't played any in 7th edition or with the new codex yet, but I still would go with big squads of boys. So they're cheap, and you can bring lots of them, and with the new WoG special rule, you can run and then charge, and you can re-roll one of your charge dice. So basically, you move your 6, and then you roll 3d6, re-rolling one of them, and that's how far you can charge into somebody. So it's pretty good, because on average that'll like give you another 12 inches. So you're like threatening around 18 inches with your guys, which is really, really good, because most people just don't. Again, that's only on the one turn, but really you just need to hit that one time. There's a new item called Lucky Stick. You could take it with your war boss, and it gives you +1 weapon skill to your whole unit. And so all of a sudden, all your orcs are most likely hitting on 3s now instead of 4s, which is a lot more hits. And it also allows your war boss to reroll lots of funny shenanigan things. But if you reroll too much, you just die, because it revolts against you. But you can read all about that in our new Orc Codex. I would just get a bunch of boys. Flash kits, I think, are super solid. Def Copters are great because they're so cheap now. Def Copters with rockets, which is great because the old Assault on Black Reach came with them already modeled as rockets. So pick some of those up on like eBay or something, or somebody getting rid of their old orcs. They're around everywhere because Assault on Black Reach was so popular. So boys, cheap to get. Def Copters, cheap to get. War Buggies are better now because they can outflank, so those are solid. Mega Knobs are always super good. Probably want to get a Pain Boy in there or a Weird Boy. Those are good. But I don't know, just get up to like a 750,000 point level, maybe even a 500 point level. Play, see how it feels. If you like it, then just buy more of it. But check out my other video about the codex, and I kind of review of what's good, what I think is good and what I don't think is good, and I think that will give you a better base without me going into too much detail now.
Excellent cross promotion there, Dan.
All right.
So Alpha Eric's asked about being able to assault on turn 1 if you go first in 7s.
I don't know, actually. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, Alpha, you asked the wrong question, I guess. I don't know.
I guess you can, but if it happens, cool. If not, you know, there's not going to be a whole lot of opportunity, I think. Let's see here. So, how do you build your list, Miranda?
So I'm very sentimental. I like the lore of my casters. Like for hardcore, I was originally thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have these 7-minute turns for a 50-point list. That's pretty intense. I better streamline my army, have a few models. And then I went with an infantry spam witch list because I just enjoyed it. I love the old witch. So I tweaked that list a bit, and I was like, no, this is what I want to play. Yeah. But I take a very combined arms approach, which makes me more of an all-comers player, which is why I like one list rather than 2 or 3 list formats, and I've never played a 3-list format. In general, Khador, you want to build with 1 or 2 jacks, and then you kind of fill in the rest for infantry. I have some favorite models like the Devastator, who I learned from JDP, and I just loved his way of using it. Was you bring a Devastator and you just go park him on a scenario somewhere, and at armor 25, he's probably not going to go anywhere. So then you can kind of ignore that and then go play with the rest of your models. So he's isn't really a focus hogging type of jack.
Right.
So I'll keep a hard hitter like Show 9 or Behemoth, who are really, really hard hitters. What is that? Are those donuts?
Maybe.
Oh my god.
It's okay. I just drank a liter of chocolate milk. My health is taken care of.
Wow. Alright, I just don't want to hear any late night phone calls later about the tapeworm I had to pull out. Anyway, so I'll bring a hard hitters, and then obviously I have a favorite. I love my Winter Guard. I mean, a lot of people complain about them because they're very good. You have skewy lists you can do go with, like Kayazi, and you Iron Flesh Kayazi, and suddenly their defense 19 in melee, but they die to blast damage. They have no range. Iron Fang Pikemen, they have some really good utility. They can hit really hard, and they can have a decent defense, but you can set them on fire, and they can get up the board actually really fast too, so that's pretty good. But I haven't assembled them, so that's a big reason I don't play IFP. And then Winter Guard, they're tough. They have CRAs, they have CMAs, they have spray shots. Like, they have so many answers that it's really hard not to want to just take them as a constant toolbox. They're tough. They can have boosted attack rolls, which was a big deal in my last battle report. I like my mortar crew. I think Khador has amazing artillery, and the 4-inch AoE really helps get rid of high defense, low armor infantry. So I try to build it in with having my tar pit, high defense, something that can last, and then be able to protect my heavy hitters for later game. So I mean, it's pretty standard. What is it? Hold the line, push for scenario. Go for an assassination if the opportunity's pretty good, but I actually really hate going for assassinations because you're really just out there if you fail.
Yeah, a lot of the time. So without going into too much detail about your recent battle report, I'll let people watch it, enjoy it for themselves. I noticed that you play kind of slow up the board.
In that one, I did.
Yeah, it was just different things with different threats, but I find that when I play, I like being up as far as humanly possible.
In general, I agree. Generally. But it depends on what's on the other side of the board. If you're just running up and you're like, oh, I'm going to run 14 inches or 12 inches or whatever, and then whatever's on the opposite side of the board can run up, engage you, and murder your face for having done that, then...
But if it murders your face and then you just murder it right back and you peace trade well, then
yeah,
I'm okay with being able to murder.
That. There was a very specific reason I played it that way.
Wait, so so Winter Guard, the Bob and Weave is an order, right? So you can't run.
Correct.
Bob and Weave. Okay. All right. I guess that makes more sense then.
And I had to go second. So I was like, because if I had gone first, yeah, it would have been just like, run. But
all right. No more hints. You have to watch the battle report for yourself.
That's right. Go watch it. It's only like 22 minutes. It took about, I don't even know how many hours of editing. A lot. But.
It was very high quality as always. Good job.
And I have a shiny new background. Did you see?
Yeah, it was nice. With a nice little new terrain in there as well. So what I'll actually do is I'll post a link to the battle report in the description after we're done here. So you can easily find it if you don't know her channel already. What was I thinking of? Okay, so actually I want to share how I built one of my lists that I'm actually bringing this Saturday. So it's a kind of a weird list. I guess it's kind of more, I don't know if it's skilly, but I'll tell you how I arrived on this list. I'm going to bring up some models just for emphasis on things that are so disorganized.
And empathetic push, I'm not forgetting your question. I'll just answer it after Dan does whatever it is he's doing.
Wait, what? Who in the what and the where?
I didn't say anything.
Okay. All right. So I have this wonderful model called Stormwall, and he's great. And you know, solid. It was a lot of fun to build and paint, and it took forever to paint. But then I also acquired this model because I bought a mammoth way back when, because I was like, mammoths are cool for Scorn, but then I found that I wasn't playing Scorn much, and I found that in my desire to play Scorn, I found that the minions were more fun to play than actual Scorn models, at least for me. And so I just started playing minions instead. Scorn is kind of on the side, not doing much at all. So I traded my mammoth for, I'm just assembling here, he's like pinned and magnetized and stuff, for a galleon. Okay? So I need to try to paint him up for this weekend. So the galleon. So I'm like, So I have a Stormwall. Okay. I have a Stormwall and a galleon, like my bully boys. Man, the Stormwall looks so puny beside the galleon. Oh my goodness. But anyways, so I have two Colossals. Yeah. And the galleon, he can only be brought with mercenaries. He can't be brought under any kind of Cygnar caster. But then there's this wonderful little mini caster called Gaston Cross, and he's a new journeyman warcaster. And because you can't jack marshal Colossals, you have to put him in a battle group. And so I was like, well, Gaston can be with Cygnar, and so Galleon can be with Cygnar. So I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I brought a list with with Galleon and Stormwall? And because the Galleon has 2d3, he has like gun port shots that are little AoE 3 POW 14s, and they're like range 14 as well, so they're solid. And then the Stormwall has his like nipple guns that are shooting D3 each as well, and then he has his two big. you like that visual? Okay, so the Defender has his big shots as well, and then Galleon has his big trident, in which when you shoot someone, it's only range 10, but if you shoot someone with it and damage it, you pull it in, and then you get a POW 21 hitting it, because like the Galleon hit harder than the Stormwall, which is fantastic. Well, it hits with its left arm, it hits a POW 19, and his right arm POW 21. So depending on what side of the Galleon you're at, you're hitting a little tiny less than the Stormwall, a little more. But anyways, pretty solid, and he's speed 5 as well. I thought he was speed 4, so they're both pretty fast for Colossal. So I was like, okay, how am I going to make this work? How can I use both of them? And I just kept on thinking, man, snipe. And again, you already have Magnus for snipe, but if you can hot swap snipe between Stormwall and the Galleon. Oh, my roommate just came home. I'm gonna close the door. Alright, so hopefully he realized what's happening. So, where was I? Okay, so snipe on both of them. So it's like range 18 defender guns, and then a range 14 drag gun, just like boop, thank you heavy, because you have all the little guns. You're gonna clear whatever's in front, and you're gonna kill stuff with no repercussions whatsoever, because everyone else that has really long range can't hurt Colossals, or not significantly enough. And then I bring a Journeyman, so I can throw Arcane Shield on him, or a caster that already has Arcane Shield, so I have Arcane Shield on both of them. So I'm like, Then I'm thinking feats, like what feats benefit these guys? And so I was thinking Peace Striker, because he has Snipe and Arcane Shield, and so that's 2 Arcane Shields and hot swapping Snipe is great, but his feat only affects the Stormwall. I mean, Stormwall has to go up further, but the problem is that Galleon wants to go up further with his Trident, and you can usually, like, a lot of more friendly faction buffs apply to Stormwall, and so that was kind of like, maybe not. Then there is Sturgis, the newer caster, because he has Arcane Shield and Snipe as well, and his feat is everyone gets pulled in. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, and then Sturgis walks up, feats, pulls the guy in, and then the Galleon can aim and drag him in even further. But then again, you're pulling their whole army closer to your Colossals, and your Colossals want to shoot as much as possible. So I was like, maybe not. And then I thought, you know what, do I really need Snipe on these guys? They already have huge amounts of range, and if I'm sitting there sniping, then I'm not getting into the zones, because he's 19 points, and he is 18, I think, something like that. Anyways, that's a massive chunk of my list. I'm not going to have a lot of other stuff to throw in the zones, and so I was like, okay, so like the snipe actually, although it sounds hilarious on paper, actually isn't probably the best route, right? So then I'm like, well, who's a really good caster that can delay them? And so I thought of the Haleys, either P. Haley with her temporal barrier, so no one can charge in her control area, and you bring a Squire, so it's bigger, and then no one can charge your Colossals. So that's great. That's pretty fantastic. Or I thought E. Haley, because she's just solid to begin with. Then she can cast her temporal, or not temporal barrier, her deflection. So both of them get +2 defense and armor from ranged, and so you guarantee win the range game basically. And obviously with the Journeyman Warcaster, you get Arcane Shield on the one of them that is most threatened by whatever's coming up the board, or throw on your caster. Haley, if it's like Haley lights on fire, you're just like, no. So you put Arcane Shield and mitigate some of the damage until it goes out. So there's that. So I was like, okay. So that, I think I like E. Haley, because with her feet, you can either move or attack. You have to sacrifice your move interaction. So all of a sudden, that for melee, you just get another turn to shoot, because they're not charging, they can't do anything. Then they got Time Bomb to throw out to prevent charges and stuff. So I think E. Haley just helps them be alive for longer. But I'm like, but E. Haley is really easy to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's 2 zones, one Colossal has to go for each zone, kind of thing, or maybe not. But like if it's the equal zones, yeah. So you have to. So I was like, so what's gonna be the best thing to be in front of Haley that's not gonna die? So I was like, maybe different like Forge Guard or different things with Arcane Shield on, that'd be great. But I thought maybe Boomhowler and Co. And the full point doesn't really fit in if I want the Journeyman, so I brought a min unit. I know that's kind of crazy, but I brought a min unit of Boomhowler and Company, because 4 up tough is great, and yeah, so why not? So they go up, they can super tough, and hopefully delay.
Yeah.
What was that?
You're just using them to bubble wrap Haley, basically, like.
Kind of. And just have something in the middle of the board while the Colossals are kind of on either side.
And they can't be trampled through.
Right. So it's just more and more solid choice. And if I really want to, I can put Arcane Shield on them for the first turn. And so people like guns trying to pick them off, They'll be armor 19 with the flex. They'll be armor 9. Wait. Yeah, they're armor 19 with all the buffs if you're trying to shoot them off the board, and defense 14. So 14 19s are not easy to kill, and if you do, it's 4 up tough. So I think very, very solid choice, I think, there. And so then with the Journeyman and, of course, the Squire, there's 2 points left. 2 points. No, there's 4 points. That's with Gaston in there as well. And so I brought Dougal McNally because why not? It's the Galleon. So with Artillerist, all his AoE shots get +2 rat. And so all of a sudden he's rat 7 with all his little AoEs, which is fantastic. And if they miss, you get to re-roll their direction and distance, or the other or both or whatever. So if it's just like way off, you get to re-roll. It just makes his gun so much better. And so support for Galleon taken care of. Great. So now we have 2 points left. Oh, he also has his mini feat to give +2 range. So he is, even more threat. And so even though I'm not bringing snipe, there's that 1 turn of extra range. So 2 more points left. What do I bring? And I was like, I don't know. I went back and forth for a long time, but what I settled on was 2 Goblin Tinkers. One, because they can both repair the Galleon and the Stormwall. Because you can only repair friendly factions. So if I brought Arlen or some mechanics, they'd only be able to repair the Stormwall. If I brought like Dirty Meg, she'd only be able to repair the Galleon. And regardless, you can't reactivate the Galleon once it dies. And it's impossible because you have to have a battle group. So if Gaston dies, it's done. So whatever. So the max amount of repairs with diversity, 2 Goblin Tinkers. First of all, they're speed 6. And so you're moving up the board, whatever's happening, they kind of just run over to the Galleon or run over to the Colossal that's going to need help. And then repair 8, 2d6 worth of damage coming off your Colossal. It's pretty good. I like it. And they're also medium bases, and so they can block tramples and charges and stuff if your boom howlers aren't making those tough rolls. Well, they have a good answer for them. And so that's my 50-point list and how I arrived on it. And I've only played it a couple times. I've dominated with it. One time I was too greedy and didn't feat with Haley early enough, and I lost my Stormwall. And I didn't think he was going to be able to hurt it very much, but he ended up almost killing it until I had like 1 box left. And so then I lost the game right there. If you lose a Colossal too early, then you're just done. But so I want to bring it this tournament upcoming, and but not before I didn't have the Goblin Tinkers. I had something else. So we're going to see. We're going to see how it goes. But that's basically how I built that list. And so the tweaking right now is just those extra 2 points, because everything else I think is good, unless I figure out a different thing for the boom howlers, instead of maybe just tough guys bringing more and more guys, more infantry spam. So that's also kind of an option, but I'm going to try the boom howlers again. And that's cool. So.
Do you know if you'll be able to record anything at this tournament on the weekend?
It is Death Clock. So if I do record, it would be like off at the side. There's not really. Well, the tournament organizer said there's a lot more room, so maybe like at a table. I'm probably not. I'm probably gonna take some pictures, and I'll probably share next time we have a hangout. Just different things. You can give like a little brief battle report maybe. But most of the time when I go to play in a tournament, I go play for fun, for experience. So I try to leave the videotaping at home, just so I can focus more on the tournament. That's that. Well, I've done a lot of talking this time.
A little bit. It's all good. Let me go back to Apathetic Fish's comment from earlier. Because he's a Khador player too, so I've got to support my buddies out there. Do you play many mortar crews? I own 2, and I love them. I use East Sorsha with a full Death Star unit of Winter Guard with Cognic Joe, a Juggernaut, and Kodiak. Where should I go from there? Oh, I also have Widowmakers, which are fantastic. I always feel good, 90% of the time feel good about bringing Widowmakers. Beaster 9 is a fantastic Jack. You can bond him to East Sorsha. It doesn't, Beaster 9 avoids the non-character rule for her bond. So he can be bonded, and he's insanely good. 2 Jacks is kind of heavy for East Sorsha generally. Like, her feet doesn't, you don't have to have a bunch of hard-hitting dudes out there. Or a bunch of hard-hitting Jacks anyway, because she's still only 6 focus. So Beaster 9 would be the easy, like, in on that one. And then maybe some super solos. Like, I like Manhunters. I think they're very good. trying to think of some other ones. You can also start branching into mercs. Like Gorman is probably one that everybody should have. I don't know that East-Horseshoe cares so much about like Iona and Holt or as much. But they're also really good for Khador. So as far as where to go from there, your infantry is very solid. East-Horseshoe loves Winter Guard because she has her elite cadre, so she can give them an additional ability. I don't know what else I would put in there. Because it's kind of what I run, like Widowmakers and Winter Guard, and then I'll throw a Manhunter solo in there, or like the Widowmaker solo is also really good. Just things that I can move around independently on the board. Models that don't need specific caster support are definitely favorites of mine. So. And I can't talk as long as Dan, so I'll just...
I'm long-winded sometimes.
Just leave it there. What's that?
I just get excited about things, you know?
Oh. And then, Mandragora joined us. Hello. Zalian Gaming. Miranda, I love the new battle report. Thank you. I'm so happy to have gotten another one out, finally. And Dan, I'm your Canadian neighbor to the west. Love your videos.
He must be from BC, because there's nothing else to the west.
And Justin Becker, Miranda, have you ever considered Berserker bombs or Commando bombs? Either throw a Berserker with full focus or Commando Flamer with Conquest. Range 10 threat range, range 10 threat range with red line. That's very chaotic sounding. Like, just here's my Berserker full. I'm not gonna let you charge or run up and use that focus. I'm just gonna toss you over there. It's weird. I guess you can get up and do stuff. But.
Wait, is the Berserker? Do they have a thing where if you give them focus, they have a chance of blowing up?
Yeah, you have to roll to see if they explode or not.
Is it just like one roll and maybe you lose your jack or maybe not?
It's like a threshold check, and I think it's a power 14 damage within, what, 3 inches or something like that. I think I've let one Berserker ever explode, and it was for science, right? Like, I just wanted to see how it rolled.
For science.
Not how I typically roll. Like, I own 2 Berserkers in Drago, and every time I'm like, I'll just run you with Vlad, because for 1 point more, you can have a Juggernaut who just hits at power 19, and you do so much more with them. Except for the running charging for free part.
Man, if I play Khador, I'd be doing Zerker bombs all the time.
You would be doing Zerker bombs. You would run Doom Reavers. Yeah, you would play pretty much the opposite how I play.
Chaotic, mass, crazy run, kill. Yeah, that's how I would play Khador.
I don't know. So what? You just like use the conquest and pick up, or do you just have another Zerker pick up a Zerker and throw them, or do you just run them in? I guess you just run them in.
Mom was upset about me pronouncing WOG. People don't like the G in the end. I explained it once how a WOG should be like there's like a slight G, like almost silent but not. There's like just slightly there. That's how I think it should be pronounced. So screw everybody else. I don't care what 99% of the other people say. There was something I was gonna say, and I forgot it.
Dan. Oh wow, not even Dan. You're Dan. When are you doing an Orc 40K battle report?
I said earlier, probably in about a month. Hopefully, within the month, I'll have 1 or 2 out, or at least filmed to edit.
But you won't be recording at this tournament. For shame.
I'm already traveling 3 hours to get there.
Oh, sounds awful.
I know, right? It's so weird, but it's such a good tournament. The tournament organizer is like so nice and so amazing. And his store gives 20% off War Machine models when you play there on tournament day. And so it's just like you can pick up some stuff for cheaper, and he like last time he like came up with like a cup of ice cream in the middle of the game. I'm like in the final table. I'm like playing for like first and third place. And he like comes up, he's like, "Here's some ice cream, Dad." I'm like, "Oh, thanks. I'm kind of busy, but thank you." And afterwards, it tasted very delicious. Mostly because I lost and got third place. Where's my trophy? Where is it? My little bronze. It's the only thing I've ever won in War Machine.
That's beautiful. You really have coins up here.
Yeah, well, we get coins too. Yeah. See, the Roy's legit. He like pays the money, and he's there like at all of his tournaments. You can get one of these every single one. I'm going for gold this time, baby. Going for gold.
Yeah.
Ah, if only my meta didn't have so many really good players who like travel around and place in the top 5 in all these big tournaments. Ugh. But anyways, oh, somebody put a comment. That's what I was going to talk about. What about cavalry units? Have you ever used cavalry units, Miranda?
No, I don't want to pay for cavalry units.
Like in-game or out-of-game?
With my money. And then assembling them. I own Vlad 3. I've owned Vlad 3 for probably like from right when he came out, because I got him. It was a gift from Gen Con. Don't know what to do with them.
You kind of need a bunch of Mulans with them. And they are, yeah. It's kind of like for the one list, and then they're not good otherwise. See, I love the look of the Cygnar Cavalry. Well, the Blazers, I haven't used them in a little while, but they are super fantastic. So the Light Cav for Cygnar, super, super good. Just, they have Pathfinder, and they can run in the Electroleap or Blessed or Brutal Damage, whatever, and then they like Cav 5 inches back, and then Defense 15, Armor 13 with 5 boxes. It's really annoying to deal with, and just really, really solid. Speed 9.
Are they base Defense 15, or do they have...
They're base 15.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good.
They're gun mages. So if you can hit 15 reliably, then you just slaughter them and they die. But it's pretty hard to usually. And they just run around forest and then like have back into the forest, and then you can't touch them because you can't see them unless you're Legion, and then I hate you. But also the Storm Lances. Storm Lances, they it's so many mixed reviews, mixed feelings for them. They can hit really hard. They just don't have any kind of staying power. If they don't completely wipe out what they charged and be able to like do something next turn, then they're just stuck in, and they're okay, but they're just not that good. And so you kind of have to like keep them in reserve for that special moment, and then just whack something really, really hard. With the new striker, they can be really effective, but again, only for that one turn. So it's just they're a lot of fun, and they can be great, and they get huge threat with huge damage. But again, usually only for that one turn, unless you arrange it right. And there are a lot of points, like 11 points for 5 models. So I don't know. Cavalry can be really good, but it just has to be in a specific list with a specific reason for having them, and just because so many people are geared towards killing lots of jacks and stuff. If you can kill a jack with a shot or deal a bunch of damage to a jack, you can kill a heavy cav with a shot, and take them out. Like a hunter shot can take out like a bane cav every turn. And so it's like before you can even get to them, you get 2 shots with your hunter, and that's like almost half your bane cav, or like for Crix players or whatever. So it's just like, cav is great, but you know, some things kill it better than others. So they're just hard to use and more kind of, but they are fun. They're very fun because for me at least, because I love fast moving stuff. I'm surprised. That's why there's a little bit of red in all of my Cygnar, because red things go faster. That's why I bought this shirt, so I could run faster. So far, it's not working, but I maybe just have to. I'm worried. This is my second time wearing this shirt, so you know, just getting used to the speed. Maybe I just think, you know, I don't know. Oh, my video crapped out.
Cavalry stuff looks. Oh, it's the nod to start. I don't know how you keep breaking this. I'm the one with the terrible connection down here.
It's a great connection. My stupid. No, I'm purple. All right. Well, oh wow, we've been talking for a while.
Yeah, we've been. Well, I'll just say we've been blabbing on. You're purple again.
Okay. Any last thoughts, last comments? What are we gonna? How much
Well,
longer?
quick note on the Cavalry. The other reason that I don't necessarily want to purchase them right now is that they still seem too situational. Like there's too few lists that they would be very useful in. And as I don't particularly enjoy assembling a ton of models, I want to make sure that whatever I'm assembling I can use often, which is why Winter Guard sees so much play. And it's one of the things about like some of the tier lists you'll see, like Doom Reavers. You can do the Doom Reaver span with that one Butcher list, but you have no reason to have that many Doom Reavers ever, except for that one list. I think Runes of War fall under that. There's another one. But any lists that are going to do that, I have no desire to collect models for. And not that Cav wants to do that, but there's still, like, I would run Vlad 3. And then who else would I run with my Khador Cavalry?
It's true, eh? There's really no one else that's like, no. It's because you have so many good infantry, right? So it's just like, when you're bringing Cav, you're just like getting rid of other infantry.
Let's check out our comments. Headshots, Miranda, any word on possibly selling some of those kits you had a Kickstarter for? I wasn't able to support it at the time, but I would love to get my hands on them. I will make an announcement as soon as I've actually fulfilled all my orders, which is what I'll be working on after I get off of the phone tonight. But yeah, there will be an announcement. It's just, and someone had even made a comment on my last battle report, like, oh, no clockwork objectives. Like, I don't own any for myself. I'm just filling orders right now still. Hey, your color's back. Dan, do you know how you are on the Privateer Press YouTube channel for the Iron Gauntlet final match video? Favorite spot was at the 22-minute mark. You have no sound. This isn't going to work. All right, well, I don't think anybody else can hear Dan, or maybe you can. I can't. So I think Dan should wrap it up. So what are some technical difficulties? Dan sends his love to all the folks out there who came out to watch us. Thank you very much. He as he put it in all the other live shows, you do make us enjoy what we do here on YouTube. Thank you, and make sure make sure to visit our channels. I have a new battle report up today, and Dan claims to have one up in another month, maybe. And yeah, so have a good night, all. We'll catch you next time, probably in about 2 weeks.